The Han River Grand Hotel rose 42 stories above the street, a tower of glass and cold ambition, and every evening at precisely 6 o'clock, Chairman Kang Min-yi descended from his penthouse to his waiting car. He moved through the lobby the way storms move across open water, with force, certainty, and without apology. The doormen snapped to attention. The valets straightened their jackets. And on the sidewalk outside, a 10-year-old boy with dark skin and a faded backpack watched it all from behind a crate of bottled water, invisible as fog. That boy was Malik Carter. He had been coming to this corner for 7 months, ever since his father's rideshare earnings stopped covering both the rent and the electricity. His father, Jerome, was a proud man who worked 16-hour shifts without complaint and never asked for anything from anyone. Malik had inherited that discipline. He had also inherited something rarer, his mother's gift. Amara Carter had been a Russian-born translator who came to America chasing love. Before cancer took her, she made sure her son could speak flawless Russian. She used to pull him close in the evenings and say, in both languages, "Words are the only walls that can never be taken from you, my love." She had been gone 2 years, but her words had not left him. Malik worked the corner with the precision of someone much older, crate clean, prices fair, pitch short and polite. Being invisible had its advantages. When you are small and unremarkable to the powerful, you become a kind of mirror reflecting the world as it truly is. Malik heard things. Side conversations between business partners who assumed no child nearby could understand finance. Arguments between married couples who forgot he was 3 feet away. And sometimes, things that had no place in the open air at all. 2 new security guards had appeared outside the hotel that week. They wore the right uniforms, carried the right badges, but something snagged in Malik's mind. They laughed too easily, stood too loosely. He had noticed their Russian accents when they spoke English and filed it away quietly. On a Thursday evening in November, Malik was reorganizing his crate when he heard them speaking to each other in low, unhurried Russian. They were not whispering. Why would they? No one around them would understand. "Device is armed," said the taller one. "Under the driver's seat, remote trigger. When he opens the door, detonate." They chuckled, the way men chuckle when a plan is already finished and the outcome already decided. Malik's fingers tightened around a water bottle until the plastic crinkled softly. He looked at the black sedan at the curb. He looked at the men. They weren't joking. He tried the driver first, approaching carefully. "Sir, do you speak Russian?" The driver frowned. "No, why?" "The guards, they said something about the car." "Kid, move along." He tried hotel security next. "I need to warn Mr. Kang. It's about his safety." The guard looked at him the way people look at a smudge on glass. "Go sell somewhere else." Malik stepped back onto the sidewalk. His stomach was knotted. He thought about walking away. He thought about his father, exhausted, driving through the night. He thought about all the very reasonable arguments for staying quiet and letting the powerful world manage its powerful problems. Then his mother's voice came to him, clear as a bell. "Courage is doing what is right before you feel ready." He looked at the hotel doors. He made his choice. At 6 o'clock exactly, Chairman Kang Min-yi walked out of the hotel as if the city had been arranged for his arrival, tall, impeccably dressed, coal-dyed, phone pressed to his ear in clipped Mandarin. His security flanked him with practiced precision. The driver was already out, reaching for the rear door handle. Malik ran. "Don't get in that car." Kang didn't break his stride. Security moved instantly, a hand landing firm on Malik's shoulder. "Remove him." Malik understood in that fraction of a second that English wasn't going to work. Not with these people, not when the driver's hand was still on the door handle and the 2 guards across the street had gone very still, watching. He needed the language his mother had given him, the one she said could never be taken away. He switched to Russian, clear, sharp, unmistakable. "When he opens the door, detonate. Device under the driver's seat. Remote trigger. backup shooter if he survives. Everything stopped. The security guard's grip loosened. The driver's hand came off the door handle. Kang ended his call mid-sentence. The city kept moving, taxis, pedestrians, the indifferent machinery of evening rush hour, but within the radius of that sidewalk, time had stalled like a held breath. Chairman Kang turned slowly. For the first time in 7 months of daily departures, he looked directly at Malik Carter. Truly looked, not the dismissive glance of a powerful man who has learned to see people as furniture, but the focused attention of someone reassessing everything they think they know. "Repeat that," Kang said quietly in Russian. Malik repeated it, word for word, exactly as he had heard it. Kang's eyes moved almost imperceptibly toward the guards across the street. They had gone rigid, the rigidity of men who have just realized their cover is blown. He tapped his watch twice, a gesture so subtle it might have been nothing at all. Code Black, quiet containment. Unmarked SUVs appeared from both ends of the block within 40 seconds. Signal jammers activated. The guards reached for their jacket pockets. Their remote detonator produced nothing, no signal, no click, no confirmation, just silence. One of them ran. He made it half a block. The bomb squad confirmed it 20 minutes later. A professional-grade explosive device, military in construction and placement. This was not a warning. This was an execution order, carried out by people who knew exactly how Chairman Kang moved and exactly how to make sure he didn't survive it. Kang stood beside Malik as the device was removed. He had not gone back inside the hotel. He stood on the pavement and watched the squad work, and something in his expression that none of his staff had ever seen, something unguarded, something human, moved across his face. "You understood all of it?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "And you ran toward me anyway?" Malik swallowed. Someone had to. Kang studied him, the stillness, the absence of tears or trembling, the quiet conviction. He had seen grown men shaking for hours after attempts on their lives. This child stood with his chin level and his eyes steady. One of the captured guards looked over and laughed softly. "You think this was just hired help? Your board approved it." The silence that followed was colder than the one before. Not shock, recalibration. Every meeting, every handshake, every trusted face around a conference table, all of it had to be re-examined. This was not street-level betrayal. It was internal, corporate, strategic. Someone at the top of Kang Global had decided he needed to be removed, and they had almost succeeded. Malik hadn't just stopped an explosion. He had exposed a conspiracy. He was still holding his water crate when the last technician packed up and the street began to breathe again. Chairman Kang looked at the crate, then at the boy. "Come with me," he said. "I want to meet your father." Jerome Carter had been awake for 19 hours when Chairman Kang's security detail collected him from his rideshare shift. They were polite about it, almost deferential, which made him deeply uncomfortable. In Jerome's experience, powerful men didn't send polite cars for people like him unless something had gone seriously wrong. He arrived at the penthouse prepared for the worst. He found his son sitting in a leather chair that probably cost more than his car, looking entirely composed. Across from him sat Chairman Kang, studying Malik with an expression Jerome could only describe as reassessment. Kang relayed the evening's events with boardroom precision. Jerome listened as the full weight of it assembled in his mind. When Kang finished, Jerome turned to his son for a long moment, said nothing, then looked back at Kang. "Sir," Jerome said, his voice steady with the dignity of a man who has had to be composed in rooms that didn't extend him that courtesy. "My son just did what anyone should." Kang shook his head. "No, most people would have stayed silent. Most adults would have stayed silent." He turned to Malik. "I walked past you every day." Malik shrugged. "Most people do." It wasn't an accusation. That was what made it land harder than one. It was a settled fact. the kind a child has already made peace with because peace is the only way to survive it. Something shifted in Kang's expression. Not guilt, but recognition. The recognition of a man who has lived at altitude so long he has genuinely forgotten what the ground looks like. "I do not believe in charity," Kang said. "I believe in investment." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside, the deed to a fully paid 3-bedroom home in a safe neighborhood, a private school scholarship through university, sponsorship at a language academy, a signed internship letter at Kang Global's international division, starting when Malik turned 16. Jerome stared at the documents, his jaw tightened. Malik blinked. "That's too much." Kang's voice was firm. "You invested in my life without any guarantee of return. I prefer balanced accounts." In the weeks that followed, the conspiracy unraveled. 3 board members had authorized and funded the assassination through carefully maintained intermediaries. By January, all 3 were gone, facing legal proceedings in separate jurisdictions. The security apparatus at Kang Global was rebuilt from the ground up, and Chairman Kang made one quiet change his staff found more revealing than any structural reform. He stopped leaving at the same time every day. Predictability, he had decided, was a form of arrogance. He did not make that mistake again. Malik moved into the new house 3 days before Christmas. He sat on the edge of his bed, an actual room with a door and a window, and stayed still for a long time. His father knocked on the open door. "She would have been proud," Jerome said quietly. Malik looked up. "I know." He started at the private academy in January. He was the only scholarship student in his year, a fact not loudly stated but quietly apparent. He didn't try to disappear. He didn't perform. He simply worked the way he had always worked, with the discipline of someone who understood early that effort is the only currency that can't be taken. By spring, he was at the top of his language cohort. The following year, he added Mandarin to his Russian and English. He was 12 years old. The building had been a disused community center for 11 years before Kang Global's foundation acquired and renovated it. The architects were given one instruction: make it feel like it belongs to the neighborhood, not to whoever is funding it. The result was warm brick and large windows, a covered outdoor area that caught morning light, and a kitchen capable of producing 400 meals a week. The sign above the entrance read, "Carter International Language and Leadership Academy." Free tutoring, meals, language programs, business mentorship for underprivileged youth. On a bright Saturday morning in May, Malik stood on the front steps holding oversized scissors, a ribbon stretched across the entrance. Cameras clicked. Reporters gathered. Kang stood a half step behind and to the left, not in front, not at center, so that in every photograph of this moment, it was the 12-year-old who held the frame. Malik looked up at the sign, then back at Kang. "Why did you name it after me?" Kang answered quietly, "Because you reminded me that power without humanity is fragility." Malik was still for a moment. "And you reminded me that you can spend your whole life being invisible and still matter." "And you reminded me," Kang continued, "that even the most guarded empire can be saved by someone the world refuses to see." The scissors cut through the ribbon cleanly. Applause spread down the block, out of the bakery, the laundromat, the barbershop. Jerome Carter stood near the back, arms folded, jaw set in that way he had when he was carrying more than he would show. Reporters reached for Kang. He directed every one of them politely and firmly to Malik. Inside, children from the surrounding blocks filed in with the cautious curiosity of people who have learned not to assume that good things in nice buildings are for them. Staff welcomed them at every turn. In the main language lab, an instructor wrote on the whiteboard in 4 languages. "Languages are power. They let you hear what others hide." Malik stood in the doorway and read those words, and for just a moment his composure slipped, not into sadness, but gratitude. The kind that moves through you when something taken from you returns in a form you didn't expect. He thought about his mother, about dinner table Russian and walks in the park, about the cancer that came quietly and left him only her words, which turned out to be the most durable thing she could have given him. He thought about 7 months on that corner, being walked past by people who looked through him. He thought about the cold November pavement and the weight of knowing something terrible was coming and having no certainty anyone would listen. He thought about running anyway. Outside, Kang stood alone on the steps after the crowd moved inside. He looked at the sign. In 36 years of building an empire, he had never put anyone else's name on anything. He had always believed visibility was a resource to be controlled, never given away. He had changed his mind. There was a boy inside that building who had stood on a pavement with nothing but his mother's language and his own conscience, and had run toward danger because someone had to. Not for reward, not for recognition, just because it was right. Kang had spent his career building systems to ensure his survival, and all of it had nearly failed. What hadn't failed was a 10-year-old with a water crate and a dead woman's words in his chest. That deserved to be named. He walked inside, and for the first time in a very long time, he did not feel feared. He felt grateful. Years later, when journalists asked Malik about the moment that changed his life, he would pause, not because the answer was complicated, but because it wasn't, and he wanted to say it simply enough that no one could make it more dramatic than the truth. I heard something I was supposed to hear. I did what my mother taught me to do with it. He would smile, the way people smile when thinking about someone no longer there, but somehow still present. She told me languages are power. She told me they let you hear what others hide. He would look directly at whoever was asking. She was right.